guys are good. All right, so
Swimming.
let's see here. We have a new series we're going to be doing throughout the rest of the year. And now I say rest of the year. There's only like, let's see here. I think 4 more Wednesdays that I'm going to be teaching. We got a couple of Wednesdays in there that are going to be fun nights. Worship night. We got 2 guest speakers coming. The seniors are going to be speaking to us. So it's going to be kind of a lot of fun over the next couple of weeks. So you're not going to want to miss out on it. But we're starting a new series called Swim Lessons. Now, let me ask you guys a question. How many of you have ever gone swimming in your life?
Me.
Okay, pretty much everybody. Great. All right. So, when you started swimming out, how many of you started something like this right here? Nice floaties?
No.
Yeah, she's like, no.
Looks like
I remember using the floaties. Now they have like a step before that for like little kids. It's like the float. So it's not even just the floaties. You like stick the kid's leg in a float or whatever. All right. So that's kind of how you start. And then you work your way up to where like you take the floaties off, and then maybe a parent or like a friend that's older, they kind of teach you how to swim, and you know you start to paddle, but they're still holding on to you. Then eventually you learn how to swim a little bit, and then eventually you get to where you can do something like this.
Yeah, she was
Anybody ever done like full belly flop off the? Yeah. All right. So here's the thing. When it comes to swimming, there tends to be a progression. Whether you were taught with floaties or not, there tends to be a progression when it comes to our swim lessons, right? You don't normally like, I don't know, if you're 3. My cousin did this, which was a little weird. I thought it was odd. But you normally just don't take a 3-year-old and like chuck them in the deep end, right? Yeah, John's like, yes, you do. That's the first thing you do.
No, you do not, John.
Swimming takes a bit of a progression. Wookie, is this a story or a comment? Can you tell me afterwards? I know you're like itching to like get it out. Well, here's the thing. When it comes to swim lessons, it's normally a progression, but oftentimes, when it comes to life, do you get swim lessons to where it's just a bit of a progression, or do you find that if you're a follower of Jesus or not, you kind of get thrown into the deep end of the pool with different things in life? Maybe sometimes it's family, sometimes it has to do with stuff at school. I was just kind of thinking about a couple of these things. Just the word love. It's thrown around in our culture a lot. But some people might say, hey, it's loving if you completely accept me. Other people would say, it's loving if you accept me, but you'll like actually speak into my life and say hard things. And other people will go, that's not loving at all. You can't say anything hard to me. You just need to affirm everything that I do. So even on love, it can be, a little bit different. How about this? How many of you guys have ever been at school and you've heard either a teacher or somebody else say something that was different than what you believe? Anybody ever experienced that? Okay. And it's a little difficult in that moment because you're generally not like, all right, your parents are like, hey, listen, when you're going to get to school today, your teacher's going to say this, or your friend's going to say this, or you're going to have somebody that maybe doesn't even agree with you on your stance on God, or somebody is just going to completely disagree with you on your stance on how to even live your life. And when you get there, this is what they're going to say. This is what you're going to do. So we're going to practice this right now. All right, we're going to spend 4 days practicing it, and then when you get into school, you're going to be ready to go. And by the way, I'm going to be in an earpiece in your ear and just helping you along the way so that you can be able to handle it just right. And when you get home, I will hold you and cuddle you because I know that it was very difficult for you. That normally doesn't happen, right? Does it happen for anybody in here?
No.
Okay, good. All right. You just kind of get thrown into the deep end with this stuff, and next thing you know, you're just like, I don't necessarily know what to do. I don't know how to handle this. It's like everybody comes from a different perspective, and I know there's different perspectives out there, but how on earth do I view this? How on earth should we all view this? How should we handle this? So here's the thing. How do we stop from drowning when we're thrown into the deep end? That's really the question that we're going to be talking about. But we're not talking about it with necessarily swimming. We're talking about it with life. When you're just thrown into the deep end of life. For some of you, you feel like even tonight you're just thrown into the deep end because you're just like, I don't even want to I don't want to listen to anything. I don't want to be here. It's just like, now I'm here. Like, how do we even survive all of that? And so understanding everyone's different viewpoints, being able to kind of wrap our heads around it, to learn from it, that's what this series is all about. Now that might sound boring, but we're going to give you some chance to interact even tonight and kind of help you out with it. So hang with me on this. Now, as we get into this and we dive into the deep end of the pool, there's one word that we're going to be talking about throughout the series, and it's this word, worldview. Now, if I were to ask you, what is the definition of worldview, or the word worldview, give me a couple of ideas.
Dog paddle.
No.
Don't even want to say, all right.
How people in the world view something.
How people in the world view something. That is a very accurate and descriptive definition. It literally, you go into the dictionary, it might have something longer, but generally at the beginning it says how people view their world, right?
How do you have a definition that uses the word in it?
I know, it's stupid.
Okay, I'm just.
How people see the events and the circumstances around them, how they view them, how they handle them, what basis do they take them from? Now, as we talk about this, basically it has this idea.
He lost it.
I had a pair. Oh, here they are. Worldview kind of functions like this. It's like a pair of glasses. So, yeah, some of you wear glasses, and they're the most wonderful thing on the face of the earth, right? You take them off, and you're just like,
I can't see it.
what is going on?
What's going on?
All right? But here's what glasses do. Glasses always change or taint, in a good way or bad, the perspective you have on things. And so these lights were very blinding to me, but it changed. Now, I'll be honest, all of you have like a reddish, brownish hue to you right now. I'm just, all right? My perspective, what's that? Yeah, see, if somebody wears glasses, it makes them view very differently.
You look cool.
Thank you, I appreciate it. So here's the thing. It's like the filter with which you view the world, and everyone has a different filter, or everyone has different filters that they view their world through. Now you might say that this is boring, but I'm going to tell you this. If you understand a couple of the questions that we're going to talk about tonight, it will change your world. It will bring more understanding, and it'll actually help the way that you even live and respond to the way other people, responding to the way the other people live too. Alright, so here's the thing. When it comes down to worldview, there's 4 questions that help us understand what a worldview is. Alright, so here's the 4 questions. Here's the first one. Where do we come from, or why are we here?
Why do we?
A person's worldview has to have an answer to this question. And the answer could be, I don't know. But everyone's worldview has an answer to this question, the origin of where we come from. So where do we come from, or why are we even here? What's our purpose of even being here? Here's the second one. What is wrong with the world? Many of you could have many explanations right now. Some of you have some very specific explanations. But this is morality, or how we judge right from wrong. Do you ever get the sense as you're talking with people that sometimes what you would view as wrong is not what they would view as wrong, or what you would view as right is not what they would view as right? It's because of worldview, the way that they answer this question. All right, so what is wrong with the world? Here's the third one. How can we fix it? What's our meaning and our purpose in this world? How does this get fixed? How do we strive to actually change what went wrong with the world? And let's be honest.
Mm-hmm.
That person that drives you nuts at school, that is either bullying you or constantly nagging you, or they're just aggravating you. Do you realize that even in how they're doing that, they're trying to answer this question? So like, if I can just tear you down, maybe that can build me up because I know something is broken. They're literally trying to answer that question. They're trying to give themselves meaning and purpose even by tearing other people down or even by annoying other people. All right, so worldview. That's the third one. Here's the fourth question. What is the outcome or planned outcome for the future? What's our destiny? Where are we going to go? What's the future going to look like? If we do these things, what is the future actually going to look like? Now, I thought about maybe talking about this some more, but I felt like maybe you guys could help me a little bit with this. How many of you guys are a fan of Marvel and maybe the Marvel Cinematic Universe? Anybody seen the Marvel movies?
Yes! Woo!
Yes.
Yes, he is.
Oh, okay. All right. So here's what we're gonna do.
Yes.
I'm gonna take a couple of minutes, and I just want your feedback and your input on this. All right. Try to be respectful and let other people answer. but we're gonna watch a clip from one of the movies, Guardians of the Galaxy. All right, and we are going to ask the 4 questions and see if we can come up with what's the worldview that's trying to even be pushed as you're watching the movie. All right, so like I enjoy the movies, I enjoy watching the movies. If you don't, that's okay. You don't understand good art. But
Wow, a worldview.
yeah, I know, just like right there. See, worldview comment. All right, so here we go. Let's watch this clip, and then we'll learn more about it.
Of creation itself, there were 6 singularities. Then the universe exploded into existence, and the remnants of these systems were forged into concentrated areas. Infinity stones. These stones, it seems, can only be brandished by beings of extraordinary strength. Observe. These carriers can use the stone to mow down entire civilizations like wheat in a field.
There's a little pea coming at me right now.
Once for a moment, a group was able to share the energy amongst themselves, but even they were quickly destroyed by it. You.
Alright, so that is kind of the origin of the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the story of the origin of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So, I'm going to get tongue-tied saying Marvel Cinematic Universe over and over and over again.
Yes, you will, Ian.
So let's see if we can just answer some of the questions. Now, for some of you who haven't watched the movies, I apologize. This is going to make no sense to you, but maybe you can pick up on it a little bit. We're not going to get all the answers, but you can help me out. All right, so where did we come from, or why are we here? So what's the origin story for the creation of the universe in Marvel? James?
The universe just appeared out of nowhere and a big explosion.
Okay, what were the elements that were there?
We're-
A rock.
Basically.
Rocks of colors and power.
All right, Loki's
Orange.
boom boom thing. The Infinity Stones. All right. So here's the idea. There was 6 singularities or 6 essences of what the universe was made of, and then they formed down into stones. And after kind of the explosion of the universe, they had these singularities of these stones. Now, what's missing from this worldview that might be, let's say, in a Christian worldview?
Jesus.
All right, Jesus.
God.
Yeah. Now, I'm not trying to knock the movies. They're good movies and they're fun to watch. But here's the thing. Understanding this, it's a godless universe. It's you even pick a little bit of this up as you watch some of the movies, to where, for those of you who remember, like Loki getting smashed around by the Hulk in the first Avengers movie. All right, and Loki basically says, "You will bow before me," and Hulk smashes him around a whole bunch of times, and then he says, "Puny God." All right. Well, here's the thing. In a godless universe, the people who have the most power are, in essence, the gods of the universe, the controllers of the universe. All right. So, what is wrong with the world? So, what's wrong with this universe?
has no
Everything
God.
seems to go wrong. All right. Well, that's. But from their perspective, what's wrong?
Nothing.
Bad guys. Bad
Bad
people
guys.
doing wrong stuff.
All right. Bad guys taking the singularities and using them for their own power, their own control, their own end. All right. So people try to harness the power for their own personal agenda, or they've abused these elements. Okay. So you guys get the concept of that? So that's what's going wrong in the universe. There's other things that happen, but they all kind of filter out from this. Now, here's the third question. How can we fix it? Where's the meaning and purpose come in? How do you fix it? Charlie?
Superheroes.
The Avengers. That's how you fix it.
No.
Right?
Mentors.
We band together. If we band together collectively with our strengths, we can overcome evil and good. But here's the thing. We overcome the evil with the good that we've created and we've defined. And we return the elements back to their natural state. So, in essence, if we can turn nature back to its natural state and let it be its own and let it be, and we can band together to collectively do good, we can fix what is wrong. Now, I don't know, how many of you guys saw the last Avengers movie, the Infinity War?
I saw that.
Alright, did you guys notice anything that, alright, so bad guys are bad guys, right? But did you notice something with Thanos that as you're watching him, you're kind of like, but like he's got some sort of agenda on the other side, but he's legitimately in his own world trying to do good for the universe, and he thinks that eradicating half the universe so the universe can be balanced, he thinks that would be a good thing. Did you feel that tension in watching the movie? And here's what I walked out. Thanos' idea actually wasn't that terrible.
Yeah.
Where power is king. And his reason for what is good isn't really different than anybody else's reason for what is good. It was just what they've collectively kind of decided. So he's individually got an idea and they've collectively got an idea, but what truly is good? And so what you end up having is kind of a sympathetic villain or madman. Yeah, I know. And you'll see this more and more in movies as what is defined as what is wrong with the world kind of changes. Your bad guys kind of start to become, well, maybe they're not good guys, but they're not as bad as you would think. All right, so here's the last one. What's the outcome or planned outcome for the future?
That the rocks are gonna go.
Yeah, the rocks go back and return back to their place, right? So we're going to find out, hopefully, in the next couple of weeks, right, what happens in the universe. But we assume the good guys win and continue to fight for what they believe is right. Does that make sense? All right, now, here's the thing. That whole worldview is actually pretty popular today. It's helpful to, in understanding that it's helpful to know where people are coming from. So when you're listening to them, you're like, so why would you identify with this, or why would you think that this is right? How you answer these questions actually make a big difference. And it's helpful in conversations to know what others believe and why they believe it. Something else just that popped out for me. How can we fix it? Just in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. There's a case to be made that if power is king and there's no tomorrow beyond just what we can collectively do together, why not just be comfortable and safe? Why not just strive for comfort and safety? Live as long as you can, get what you can get out of the world, and then when it ends, it ends. People want to have a meaning and purpose. Now think about this. Think about our own world. How often is the main purpose in people's lives is how can I find a way towards comfort and safety? Your whole life structure. You're going to get an education, to get a job, to do what?
Get money.
To get money to then do what?
House.
Buy whatever you want.
Buy whatever you, James, you could not have said that better. Buy whatever you want and hopefully retire with enough money to where you can be as free as you can. What's underneath that? Comfort and safety and security. In essence, the whole way you're even being trained from like kindergarten on is towards, hey, the outcome of the world and what's wrong with the world leads us to all you need to do is seek comfort and safety in life. And so here's the thing. When we talk about, hey, go share your faith with your friends, and there's something pulling inside of you where like, I don't really, like, that is uncomfortable, and it might take the safety that I have with that relationship and tear it down. That's a worldview that's getting pushed in your own life and that you've been brought up in and have been thinking through. So let me ask this. If that's kind of the worldview of Marvel Cinematic Universe, and honestly, it's kind of with, it's not exactly the way that our world is, but there's a lot of similarities. What would the worldview look like from the Bible's perspective? A couple of verses we're going to put up to show you. Here's the first one. Where do we come from in the origin? Genesis chapter 1, verses 1 and 21. It says, in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And in verse 21, it said, then God said, let us make mankind in our image, in our likeness. So God says, I'm actually making you, and I have you here for a purpose. so that they may rule over the fish in the seas and the birds in the air and the sky, over the livestock and all the wild animals, and over all the creatures that move along the ground. Right out from the beginning, God says, hey, I created you, and I'm giving you direct purpose of what you're supposed to do here and there. And in essence, you're going to be caretakers of this world that I've created. So you are basically my viceroys is a big word, but basically you're my caretakers of this world that I have given you. Here's the second question. What's wrong with the world? Morality. How do we know what's right and wrong? Romans chapter 5, verse 12, it says, therefore, just as sin entered the world through one man, and death through sin, and in this way, death came to all people because all sinned. In other words, sin is missing the mark or going against God's perfect standard, not loving or desiring God the way that we should. And so because we did that, it broke everything. And that's where we get our standard of morality. What is right and wrong? It's based not on what the collective thinks, but what actually happened that went wrong, what God said. All right, here's the third one. This is the Bible's perspective on it. How can we fix it? What's our meaning and purpose? Romans chapter 5, verse 8. I asked Taylor if she could read this for us. If you guys want to turn in your Bibles, you can, but Taylor's going to read it for us. Go ahead, Taylor, anytime you're ready.
So God demonstrates his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us.
All right, so how does it get fixed? Who fixes it? Jesus. What does he do?
Dies on the cross for our sins and wipes away all our sins.
Yeah, and he's talking to people who have trusted Christ there. So he's saying, how does it ultimately get fixed? Trust Jesus because he died for your sins to rescue what was actually broken. So there's tons of things that are broken in this world. But ultimately, you can trace it all the way back to we went against God. All right, here's a couple more verses to think about when it comes to how can we fix it, meaning and purpose. Jesus said this in Luke chapter 19, verse 10. It says, for the Son of Man came to seek and save the lost. In other words, he came on a rescue mission. So how can we fix it? Here's the question. Who came to fix it? Jesus. So is fixing the world all about us just banding together, according to what the Bible says? Or is it about someone who came to fix it? Matthew 28, 19 and 20. Since Jesus came to fix it, he says, therefore go and make disciples of all nations, baptizing them in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit, teaching them to obey everything I've commanded you, and surely I am with you always to the very end of the age. In other words, I've come to rescue you, and here's how I want you to respond to that. I want you to trust me and then tell everybody else, I've come to rescue. That's how we fix this thing. I've come to rescue you. We're going into Easter. That's what we celebrate at Easter. That Jesus has come to rescue, to save, to be the rightful creator and king over the universe. John chapter 17, verse 17, I asked Taylor if she could read this one. Because when we talk about how we can fix it, there's another claim that's being made that Jesus makes that's kind of astonishing here. All right? So John chapter 17, verse 17. Go ahead, Taylor.
Sanctify them by your truth. Your word is true.
What is he saying God's word is? Truth. What's the one thing that always comes under attack in our world? And what's the one thing that everybody always questions? That's your truth, that's your truth, that's your truth. And what is Jesus saying? I am the truth. Another verse he says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. Now I'm not saying that all of us believe that. I'm just saying that this is the claim of the Bible that how is it fixed? That there is a truth. Capital T above all other truths. Here's the last one. What is the outcome or planned outcome of the future? What's the destiny? Isaiah 65 is actually awesome, but just one verse on it. It says, see, I will create a new heaven and new earth. The former things will not be remembered, nor will they come to mind. In other words, I'm going to wipe the slate clean. I'm going to make a new heaven and new earth, and as you're going to find, those who have trusted God, those who have followed God, they will enter in with him. And see, how we view the world deeply affects what we do in the world. Let me put that up on the screen for you, because this is what I want to close with tonight. The way we view the world affects what we do in the world. Let's go back to that comfort and safety question. When we talk about a follower of Jesus, so we ask followers of Jesus, hey, trust God on this and go and share. Respond to what God says. So share it with those around you. And everything within inside of you is pulling towards, but that's not comfortable and that's not safe. Now, here's the reality. If someone came to rescue you, came to give you life, and is bringing you to a new life, even beyond that, then should our perspective be comfort and safety, or should our perspective be, I'm willing to sacrifice everything because everything is already guaranteed to me? See, our worldview, or how we view the world, deeply affects what we do. And it deeply affects everybody else that we talk to. It affects our teachers, our friends, our family. It affects our coworkers. It affects your neighbors. It affects your family members. And so as we get into the series, we're going to talk a little bit about, well, how is this even formed, or how is this shaped? How do we even combat it? What happens when, like, the world falls apart around us? How are we supposed to even view that? What happens when we're given more than what we can handle? Because understanding your worldview, and understanding others' worldview, and understanding the Bible's worldview, it deeply affects everything that you do. And when you understand it, it gives you compassion towards others because you see where they're coming from. So the biggest claim, or the biggest idea in this, is what worldview is true? That's the question that we're going to have to be asking ourselves as we go through this series. We're not going to even fully answer it tonight. The Bible makes a claim for truth, but the idea is that even true? Can I anchor my life on it? So here's what we want you guys to do. We want you to split off into groups and talk about this a little bit with your groups and your friends. Take a couple minutes to go ahead and do that, and then we'll be done for the night.
Oh, yeah.